Are you at that point in your school year where you are already overwhelmed, especially with the amount of grading and paperwork that you're having to keep up with? I know a lot of homeschool parents are in that place right now, even though you feel like you're still at the beginning of the homeschool year in a way. I know we're mid October right now, but you're already feeling like if I feel this overwhelmed now, how am I going to make it through this school year and beyond? Hey, I'm Amy Harold Smith. Welcome to wiserhomeschool.com. If this is your first time here, I'm glad to have you. I just want to share some encouragement with you today, specifically on this topic of grading papers and keeping up with grades, because I think that's something that a lot of parents maybe aren't prepared for, or they don't know how to handle it when they first jump into homeschooling. And I want to assure you that it does not have to be hard, it does not have to be time consuming, and it doesn't have to dominate your evenings or your entire day. Now, if you stick around to the end, I'm going to share with you a powerful tool that has really changed the way that I keep grades, and I think it could be helpful for you too. So, quick backstory for those of you who haven't been here before. I've been homeschooling my kids for 13 years now. We just passed our anniversary mark last week, and we have homeschooled all four of ours. We have one that's already graduated at age 16. She's 17 now, doing college work and doing awesome. And then we have three more coming up behind her that are currently in 10th, 7th, and fourth grade. So I've been in this for a while. We use BJU Press. I have some videos here on the channel if you'd like to know our experience with them. You'll probably hear a little bit referred to them in this video because they are part of my strategy for not having to grade a whole lot of work. So let me just dive in and give you a few tips on how to simplify things for you. Now, the first thing I'm going to remind you of is something that's in my free ebook about building confidence for yourself in homeschooling. And if you haven't gotten that yet, please head over to wiserhomeschool.com/ebook and grab that. But I'm going to remind you that you are in the driver's seat. When it's your homeschool, even if you are using this curriculum that has laid out all of these things and given you all of these answer keys for you to go and check every worksheet page and every assignment, and you've got rubrics for grading papers and research reports, and you have all the things that you can grade, that doesn't mean you have to do everything the way it says. And I know the first question that comes to a lot of parents' minds is, well, how do I know what's okay to skip? How do I know what's okay to look over or move past? Some of that's going to come with time. Some of it's going to come with building that confidence. A lot of it's going to come with building that confidence. The more confident you get in your ability to run your homeschool, which really, let me just let you in on this side note, homeschooling is really just parenting. But you're just adding in things that we have relegated to schools in the past, things like teaching math and reading and things. But really, when it comes down to it, homeschooling is doing life together with your kids. And as part of that, many of us choose to use a curriculum that helps us make sure we're covering key concepts in these various subjects. So I digress, but let me come back to it now. With that in mind, you don't have to do everything exactly the way that the curriculum would suggest or even make possible. Remember that the curriculum is not driving your homeschool, you are. You're in the driver's seat and you're the one deciding ultimately what matters and what doesn't. So, with that being said, my first tip is don't feel like you have to grade everything. I give a lot of completion grades for things like worksheet completion. And I know you may say, well, then how do I know if they're struggling? My theory, and it didn't start out this way. So again, give yourself patience and time to discover what's going to work best for you. My theory, as time has gone on for these past 13 years, I have grown more and more confident in the fact that if they are struggling on the worksheets and I don't catch it, it's going to show up on a quiz. It's going to show up especially on the chapter review and on the chapter test. So I don't make those benchmarks as make or break as I used to. And again, if you've heard me on this channel, you know that my background, I was very into academics, and academics meant a lot to me when I was growing up. So I definitely wanted to come in, and I always believe in doing your best on your quizzes and your tests. But now, if we get to a quiz or a test and they really struggle, I'm not just going to be like, oh, well, okay, you got a D on that, let's move on. Nope, that's not learning. That's when we say, okay, hold on a second. Let's go back and see which concept it was, because chances are they're not misunderstanding the entire chapter. They're just misunderstanding a few key concepts. And so we'll go back and we'll just hit those together. It really tends to be easier for me to do it that way. I don't grade everything, every nitty gritty detail along the way, but then when a problem shows up, we pause, we give attention to that, then we revisit the chapter test or the chapter review. BJU gives a lot of extra practice handouts and things that we could use if we ever needed some extra reinforcement of something. But that's one way I simplify. I don't typically grade the everyday stuff. I look to make sure they're doing it and they're not just writing in silly answers like they have done at times. And I'll let you guess which of my 4 children does that more often than the others. If you've been around here a while, you already know the answer. But I make sure that they're not just being silly and skipping over things, that they are giving it their attention, that they are giving it effort. And then if a problem comes up, we stop and we address it. A lot of times problems don't come up. I haven't graded anything for the whole chapter except for quizzes and tests, and they do great and they sail right through. And I've preserved some of my sanity along the way by not feeling like I have to spend my evenings with answer keys and work text out and teacher's editions grading everything. Besides the fact that I think it's really good to catch things in the moment too. They know that if they have a problem on the work text, they can come and ask me questions. And that way it's not something that, it's not just a matter of right or wrong. It's a matter of making sure they've got the concepts and they're learning them. So moving on to tip number 2. This is, for me, a game changer. And I hope it's something that you feel like you can implement with your children. I have taught my children to check their own work. I give them access to answer keys so that they can go after they've completed something and they can check it. So even with the quizzes and tests, if they're doing their paper quiz, their paper test, they know where to go. I have a mom book. If you've watched my video on organizing BJU materials, you've seen my example. A big binder has all of my test answer keys and supplemental information, things like that in there. They know where to go and they flip to the tab they need, they find their answer key, and they grade their quiz or their test. Now, you may say, well, what keeps them from cheating? Well, you do. You keep them from cheating. You know, for one thing, I hope that you're teaching them that lying's not okay and that cheating's not okay. And if you still have a problem with that, then of course you would give some extra oversight to making sure that you're holding them accountable in that area so that you're not leaving room for that. But what I have found overall is my kids don't really want to cheat. They want to do well and they want to be able to come show me that they did well. But they also enjoy that little bit of independence of being able to go and pull an answer key. Even the youngest one, he's 9 now, and he started grading his own tests and quizzes, within the last couple of years. You don't have to be, basically you got to be able to read, so obviously not in kindergarten, but you've got to be able to read and match up the answers to the test to be able to see, what the right answer is. And then sometimes they need help just counting up the problems. So I've taught them now, they know how to do the average. When you get to the end of a page, if there were 30 problems and you got 27 correct, 27 divided by 30, and they know how to convert that and write their grade on the paper. And they love doing that. And then they'll bring me their paper and show me, like, look, Mom, look what I got. So it's a really cool exercise in independence for them. It's a learning experience for them, even just continually applying this math principle of calculating your percentage every time and all of the things that kind of just go into that. And they enjoy it and I enjoy it, takes some load off of me, and it works. But like I said, they do sometimes need to know how to count up the problems because I am a big fan of partial credit. Now, in my experience in school, when I was growing up, it wasn't always that way. It's like you either got the problem right or you got it wrong, tough love, move on. And I've really adapted my approach to that over the years because I feel like there are a lot of times that I am seeing effort, and if they can defend their answer to me, even if it's the wrong answer, if it made sense how they got to it, I might give them partial credit because of the effort they put into it. And so a lot of times I will manually, I'll get to in a moment for the online grading, but I will go in and I will change something, or I will tell them to change it on how they're doing their paper grading. So sometimes they'll come and they'll say there's a math test that's two sides, one page front and back. And it has all these problems. And the first problems are all mental math that go really, 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 really quickly. Well, I'm going to give 1 point per problem. But when you get to a word problem that they probably had to stop and take 10 minutes to really process it through, and they had to set up their equation, and they had to do the equation, and they had to write it all, and they had to label. I'm not going to give 1 point for that. I'm going to give 3, 4, maybe 5 points for that. So that's the kind of thing that I'll help them with. They'll bring it over to me and they'll say, how many points are these problems? And I'll say, okay, look, and I'll show them, okay, this section, 1 point each. This section's a little harder. We'll go 2 points each. And then this section. And you say, well, how do you know? How do I know what to do? Because I'm in the driver's seat and I decide. So if I decide that that problem was worth 5 points, then that problem is worth 5 points. And really, nobody's ever going to question me on that, ever, because it's really just about how I'm educating my children, and I feel that that's what's fair. Someone else may think that problem's only worth 3 points. I'm not going to lose sleep over that. I'm going to do what I think is best, let them grade it, and then record the grade, move on. We're done. So that's tip number 2, letting the kids spearhead a lot of the grading and just oversee it however much you need to. Like I said, if you have had a problem with lying and cheating, or kids trying to slide by on things, we've dealt with some of that. And so you apply the kind of oversight that you feel like you need to it. But don't be afraid to extend some trust and responsibility to your kids. And then if you find that you need to take some of that back, you can adjust as you go. Now, tip number 3, if you use BJU Press, I just want to make sure that you're aware that in 5th grade and up, their online courses include online quizzes and tests. This is excellent because by this point, your child can probably interact super well with an iPad or a laptop or something like that. One of my kids uses a phone, and do the quizzes and tests online. Then BJU's system automatically does the initial grading. Now, it still makes it where you go in, or you can go in, and check the grading. You can adjust the grading. Again, I give partial credit sometimes, and I can go into the portal and change whatever I feel like needed to be changed on that test and submit grade. But it's a time saver because all of the little math problems and all of the calculations, it's doing all of that for me. Now, of course, if there's an essay question, it'll flag it for me to grade it manually, and it won't give them credit until I've gone in and graded it. So I think that's a really huge tool. And if you're using BJU Press online, make sure you take advantage of that starting in 5th grade, because that's going to help you out a lot. I do very, very little grading on a day-to-day basis, and it is not something that I stress about. So the last tip I want to share with you is a really powerful tool that I actually created to help me keep track of grades all in one place. Now, I just said that we use BJU Press online, so a lot of our grades are kept in what they call Homeschool Hub, which is an online portal, but we don't keep everything there. And I have to make sure that I export everything I need before the term closes, or I could lose some of that data. So I like to have a master spreadsheet where I do input grades, have one master place where I can keep the grades for the year for every subject for each child. So I want to show it to you briefly. I have a really in-depth video that actually walks you through how to use it, but I want to just show it to you briefly right now so that if it can be helpful to you, you can head over to my website and you can check it out more for yourself. So what you're seeing here is my Wiser Homeschool Gradebook, and it is a powerful but honestly not hard to use tool for you to be able to keep grades. You can use it as extensively or as simply as you would like. It looks more complicated than it is, partly because I've included a lot of written instructions for first-time users, but once you get the hang of it, you can ignore all of that, or if you watch my tutorial video, you're not even going to need to look at all of that very much at all. So I just want to show you what it does. So I save a copy of this for each child for each school year. So I would have one, my youngest child, his name is Miles. I would have one for Miles for the 2025-2026 school year. And so I'm just going to show you very briefly. There are a few places you can input. He's in 4th. Actually, he's going to be in 5th, I think. Well, not quite yet, but he's getting there. So basically these blue shaded areas here, I'm going to put in some information, and then all of this, I'm not even going to touch. It's all going to pull from these tabs down here at the bottom. Now you see I have an attendance tab here, and that's just for the benefit of my friends who are in states that require you to track how many hours or days that you teach. This is a built-in, I call it attendance tracker, even though we're home. So our attendance is always present, whether we're doing school or not. But again, the spreadsheet goes in detail for that. I built it especially, I know Missouri has some really detailed requirements for what you're supposed to break down and keep track of, and it just makes it super easy to do that. But if you pass over that to the subjects, you're actually going to have where you can change the name of the subject here. It's already pulling in information from the first page here. And then all of this stuff at the top is auto-populated for you. It's going to show you basically the how your child's doing in each category within that subject. So if you do want to grade things all differently, you can do that. If you don't, if you just want one grade and you want everything to have the same kind of weight within that subject, you can just put it all in one category and it'll calculate it accordingly. Basically, right here is the part that you would change, and you would adjust the weights if you need to. Again, I go in detail on the tutorial video about that. And then down here, you just start adding things that you're keeping track of. So it may have been a test for chapter 1, and you would put it in the test category. You would say, okay, he got, while ago I said 27 out of 30, and it calculates that for you. It also makes a chart for you to kind of show you the trend as he moves through the course, he or she. And you'll do this for each subject, and then over here in that front report card tab where we started, it's going to bring it over for you. It's also going to begin to calculate the GPA for you as you move through things as well. And there are also places where you can adjust your grading scale. If you want to be more strict or more lenient in terms of what an A is, what a B is, things like that, you can do that as well. If you think this tool would help you, I want to encourage you to head over to wiserhomeschool.com/gradebook. And it is just a one-time purchase, and it's yours to use for the life of your homeschool. And of course, there's ways that you can reach out to me if you ever needed support in it as well. But like I said, a one-time purchase, and you can use it for every child in your homeschool and for as many years as you decide to homeschool. But at the end of the day, the point of this video is that I want to encourage you. If you're feeling overwhelmed, that's normal, and it won't always be this way. Give yourself permission to experiment with some things in terms of where you give yourself some leniency and how much you're requiring of yourself. Remember that you're not a teacher in a classroom with 20 children that you have to keep all on a very comparable standard to keep it all fair, and so that you don't have parents beating down your door asking, well, why did my kid get dinged on this, and why did you dock their grade on this? You don't have that. It is all up to you to do what you feel is best in your eyes for your child. And you are the one who gets to decide. So if that means keeping strict grades and keeping more of them, do that if it's sustainable for you. But if that's not sustainable for you, please, I beg you, don't burn yourself out trying to keep up with the way the curriculum is laid out, or trying to keep up with a system that you opted out of because it wasn't the best option for your child. being the traditional school system. If that was the best option, you would still have your child there. So by the fact that you're homeschooling, you're already giving yourself permission to break free from that system. And sometimes that means rewiring your own mindset, which is something I cover a lot in my course, Homeschool Crash Course. Sometimes it's hard for us to kind of break free from what we always knew if we grew up in a traditional school. And so I think these are some of the reasons that parents dive into homeschooling and then sometimes burn out super fast because they don't understand that we have that prerogative to change things when it's not working or when we're getting overwhelmed. There are times that, as much as you might understand that your kid is getting overwhelmed and you may recognize that you need to change some things so that they don't burn out, you need to recognize that in yourself as well. It's okay to give yourself some leniency, to not require so much from yourself day in and day out. If you're homeschooling and you're never having a time to breathe, I'm not going to say you're doing it wrong, because I think that we all have different ways of doing it right. But there is a better way. I'll say it that way. You don't have to be stressing yourself out day in and day out. So if my resources can help you, check out what I have. I have free and paid resources at wiserhomeschool.com. Of course, I always love for those who haven't already to subscribe to this channel. And anytime you can like a video or drop a comment, I love hearing from you and being able to respond to your questions on here as well. Also, maybe you say I don't really need any tools or resources, but you want to stay in the loop. I've got an email opt-in at wiserhomeschool.com/email. So I just dropped a whole bunch of links, and I'm going to also put them down below for you so that you can find them easily. But definitely check out that grade book if you think it could help you keep your sanity in organizing your grades throughout the school year. It's not even too late to start if you'd like to go ahead and plug in the school year for 2025 to 2026. Drop me questions, and thank you so much for watching. I look forward to seeing you soon.